Today we'll be hearing from two women who have sort of contrasting approaches to Baba. One met Baba in the body, lived in India, and now resides in the United States.
As I looked at Baba's picture, I thought of the pictures I used to look at in Elizabeth's home, where I lived for close to 4 years with Phyllis Frederick. And those pictures that she had in those days, they would just come out in 3 dimensions. And I took it for granted. That's the way pictures came out of Baba. And I really did. They would be 3-dimensional. So that was how Baba drew me in those, I think I will sit down. Is that right? In those years of preparation to meet him. Because one feels, I felt, very unprepared to meet a perfect master. In those years, it was Sri MeherBaba Sadguru. And I just felt so unprepared. I think that was one of Baba's graces, that it drew me closer just to see this projection of Baba before I even met him in the body.
I don't think that any of us can be fully prepared to meet the avatar. But nonetheless, you did have some initial preparation. I know that you and Phyllis had studied various paths and approaches to truth.
Yeah.
You had studied at Columbia University,
yeah,
and also at the Union Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
And other mystical paths you had studied with Phyllis.
The most important thing was the life path. It was so, when I was seeking Baba, I was totally, I was very confused, but also very infuriated. It was during the last war, and I had some brothers who were participating in the situation of really looking up to God as the all-loving, compassionate Father, and then knowing about the Holocaust and the things in this world. I just need to reconcile that.
And so that was some of the impetus that led you on your search for truth.
Yeah. Mostly the internal turmoil. I think the university atmosphere confused me even more. I would just, having heard Shireen and how Baba's grace gave her this sort of pure, intuitive approach to him, you can see why, looking back, you think, well, I have a pretty hard nut to crack up here. Have to go through all these university studies.
But a very lucky nut, by all means. May we all be lucky nuts. You first heard about Baba in 1944, and then later you waited 8 years till you actually met him in 1952. But at that time in 1944, how was it that you came to hear about Baba and get drawn into his love orbit?
Yes, it was Phyllis that I met at the university, and she was the one who, when I was studying Western mystics especially, she said, "Had you never read some of the Easterners?" And we became real good friends. And one day she called up and said, "I've heard this disciples, namely Norina Machabelli, who was giving talks on," as I say at that time, it was Sadguru MeherBaba, before he had announced that he was Avatar. And I said, "Well, what is a perfect master anyway?" And so she said, "You're invited to come and to one of the talks on East 67th Street. Norina and Nadine and Elizabeth, on Baba's order, were living together and preparing for his coming. And the center at that time was I think it was just shortly before then that those 5 conditions that Baba had given Elizabeth for one of his universal spiritual centers would have to be would have to be found. And she had searched with Norina in California and in Upper New York State and all over until she found it, that it was right in her own backyard. It was the property of her father, Simeon Chapin. And that was just shortly after that Phyllis and I came into their orbit. And when I heard Norina, who was given this work by Baba, he had sent a letter to Phyllis and myself. Norina Machabeli is the only one in America who has my spiritual thought transmission. And when I first came and heard Norina, it was a very wonderful feeling I had of this what Baba gives, which is never excitement, but just absolute clarity of mind and peacefulness. And I thought, well, my goodness, this is what I'm looking for in my searches in this way of examining different philosophies and explanations for all the irreconcilables of life. And here, this was just an experience. I mean, I immediately felt a peacefulness that I'd never felt before. So Norina was a very powerful transmitter of Baba's love.
And when you would attend her talks, didn't she make a comment, kind of an interesting cryptic comment?
She did. Phyllis and I came, we gave it the acid test, so to speak. We had critical minds. It was phenomenal. Here was a very beautiful woman. She was one of the 5 beauties of the world at one time. And even when we met her in her 60s, she was still a very charismatic figure. And she closed her eyes, and Baba spoke to her. Baba had trained her in India to reach his spiritual thought that was very effective in drawing people, as she drew Phyllis and myself. And it was after a period of visits to their home and also public talks. She gave talks in the studio of Elizabeth Patterson and also at Carnegie Chamber Music Hall and occasionally at Steinway Hall Chamber. They had various studios. Then I was able to feel the conviction slowly growing that this was something that I certainly preferred to the university, and it really was an awakening process which Baba has on all of you, on all of us.
This is the real meaning of higher education.
The unlearning process, that's the real meaning. And she said at one meeting, she said prior to this a couple of times, there are 2 people here that Baba's drawing closer. You know, we'd look around and and I really kind of wondered. I thought, gee, I'll bet there's very special people. And by this time, though, she'd made it clear, too, Baba's famous saying when he went to England. By that time, this was 50, it was 44. Baba had that reporter in England ask him that classical question, "Sir, what is your specialty?" And Baba said, "The elimination of the ego." So I knew all about that, we looked around, and Noreen said, "Would you 2 stay afterward?" And we did, and she said, "We're preparing for the master to come, and if you like, you can help us." And that meant living with them in this very large duplex. And we shared, we had rent to contribute to some, and we had little jobs, but we also had real functions to perform. And it was a tremendous privilege. For me, it was definitely Baba's compassion, because in my own life, my mother was going through a bit of a crisis, and my brothers were, as I say, participating in the war in one way or another. And so it was real compassionate grace that I could say, yes, I'd love to live with you.
Extreme good fortune. You can imagine what it's like to have as roommates 3 close mandali of Babas. So
that, of course, was the role model of my life, because my mother, I think, would have made me as neurotic as she was.
So we can really see how Baba changed the course. It's true. It's a fact. One of the things is that actually in 1952, when Baba first came to America, you and Phyllis had your first chance to actually get a glimpse of Baba. And as I recall, that was, you were sort of semi-naughty and that others were not allowed.
Well, we both knew that Baba was arriving on April 20th, was it? 1952. And we had inside information that he would be going through Pennsylvania Station. But we also knew that Baba had said he would not accept any interviews at this time, no reporters, very incognito type of thing. And but it was Phyllis's idea, really. We stayed up all night and made a garland, and I never knew what happened to that garland, but we brought it with us. And we went to this old Pennsylvania Station, which was a beautiful work of, if any of you ever saw it, architecturally it was very special. And we went on the 3rd platform and hid behind a pillar. And we thought we were not violating. I still think we were not violating what Baba said was no meetings, no interviews. And I just had to go ahead and report to her that, okay, when Baba would come with his entourage. And she didn't want to look. Phyllis didn't want to look because she said, oh, maybe Baba's order was that we should not try to even see him. But I said, I already was absolutely determined to see him because I didn't feel it was a violation that we're not supposed to meet him. And then we did see the entourage, and it was really just like a vision. I mean, the platforms, it was very, very early in the morning, and there Baba was walking with his 6 men disciples and 6 women disciples. And Baba looked very much like the Christ that you expect, with his white sadra and his flowing hair. The accident was to follow much later, but it was just very beautiful. And I told Phyllis about it, and she wanted to know all about it. Well, she said, I won't look, but you tell me. Baba had invited us. He had written to Elizabeth. He said, I want Phyllis and Adele as my guests. And that's what happened. We were his guests first for 3 weeks, and then we were beginning to learn how Baba made you very acceptant of everything slowly, and then 2 weeks, and then 1 week. So finally it was just one week.
1 week as Baba's personal guest in Myrtle Beach.
Oh.
I'd like to just jump ahead to that time when you actually went down to Myrtle Beach. You were staying at the Lafayette Hotel. You arrived there the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's jump to that morning when you first met Baba.
And we were invited to stay on the center.
Oh, okay. But
that was a stopover.
Stopover, okay. Then that morning, when you came for your first appointment, your interview with Baba in the Lagoon Cabin, your appointment was at 10 o'clock, but you arrived before 9:30, and maybe you could sort of put yourself back
Well,
there right now in that
right.
place where you're outside the lagoon cabin,
Mm-hmm.
waiting, anticipating, meeting Baba. What kinds of thoughts and feelings are you experiencing at this time?
Well, I'm thinking, again, of the mercy that Baba had really provided by having me see these women and how their life was so selfless, and how they, three of them, were able to just totally throw themselves into the preparation of Baba coming to Myrtle Beach, cables going back and forth, and all of that impression of just doing Baba's work and forgetting oneself was just through example the most marvelous gift that he could have provided. I was just thinking that I wasn't worthy of this, and so I felt when I met Baba, Baba was just like my mother and father, though. I mean, he had the feeling of that Baba gives one is of being loved to such an extent that you just feel the intimacy of that love that you may have felt from a mother and a father. It is such a totally the selfless one who you're meeting, so that although he reflects something of what you feel, Baba kind of always is like a mirror reflecting. So Baba, acting a little nervous too. And but very soon, but that was the first impression I had, that Baba suddenly looked like my mother and father in one. Eventually, when Baba met my father at an open day at Mrs. Deuce's home, he said to whoever, just a small few of his mandali, and I don't know, the interpreter may have been at that time, Adi, and he says, your father looks like my father, Baba said, and he turned to Gustaji, Baba's shadow. He said, doesn't he? And Gustaji shook his head. This means yes and no. I know, but it's supposed to have been yes. But I felt that Baba had the kind of love that you get little glimpses of through your parents. They just don't have it in that fullness. So that was mostly, the thought was the fulfillment of meeting this one that who I had read about by that time a great deal. Rather than, much different than Blessed Shireen, I was, all the books were thrown at me, and I read everything in sight.
And also, I think you were not too unfortunate, because you got to meet Baba in 52, 56, 58, 62, 63. So, a beautiful life indeed with Baba. Virginia, originally in about 1960, you had become a student of Paramahansa Yogananda's, and you were meditating and doing that sort of thing, yoga. And then as the years went by, life's dilemmas sort of got you preoccupied, and you weren't doing that so much. Then in 1967, something happened that got you pointed in the direction where you were actually going to hear about Baba. Can you start there about what happened?
A bunch of tragedies were happening in '67, as they always happen in series. So then I went to, I was living in Mexico to begin with, and then I had trouble with my husband there. So then I came back and I sold my house, and Jack was going to law school, and then I had a girlfriend in Santa Barbara, and she said, oh, you've got to see this psychic, she said. She's really good. I mean, she'll tell you what to do. So then, okay, let's go to see Clara Schaff, who happened to be the psychic of the psychedelic age at that time, Jimi Hendrix. was there, and Janis Joplin, and she was always in the limelight, you know, and whatever magazines they had. So we went to see her. She was very sincere, and she only charged $5, you know, she never raised the price. So, okay, I sat there, and she said, all right, put your hand down. I put down, and she goes, oh, leave the room right now. And Doc, go. And I'm going, oh my God. You know, Rita and I look at each other, and we're crawling out, you know, of the room. And I said, if I meditate, can I come back? All right, you better meditate, or you can't come in this room. And so I go home, and I thought, my God, yeah, I haven't done, you know, my yoga meditation, and be positive, okay. A few days later, Rita says, are you ready to go back? I said, I think so. So we go in. Hello, how do I sit down? How are you? She says to me, yes, that's nice, sit down. Yes, very nice. So then she starts telling me about my life, just looking at my, she traces it, and she sees all this. She says, yes. And I said, shall I go to India? I mean, to Mexico? She said, yes, go to Mexico. Shall I take Jack with me, my son? Yes, take him. He'll meet a master there. You'll meet your master in the beach, she says. And really, and then, I lived in Mexico, so she said, yeah, go back there, take Jack with you. I said, is he going to pass the bar? He will, yes, he will. But he won't like it for a while, but he will pass, and he will help a lot of young people. You'll meet your master, and you're going to live in India, and Jack's going to help a lot of young people. And I thought, wow, that's what they always say, right? You're going to be rich, you're going to be successful. Okay, that's fine. So I go to San Francisco, and I try to tell Jack to go to India, and he says, no, I don't want to go to India. He had just passed the bar. Oh, Mexico. Wait a minute. Then he took the bar. No, he wasn't going to go. He wasn't going to study. He was not going to take the bar. I said, Jack, why don't you just sit there anyway? Because she told me, make him go, whether he takes it or not, let him go. Just sit there. You don't have to take the bar. Just sit there. Well, I don't know if I'll do it or not, he says. So anyway, okay. So then he took the bar, and he passed. We didn't know yet. We didn't know till 4 months later. But he said he just knew the answers. They were there, very simple. He didn't study for 2 weeks. He did not look at his papers. And his friends had been studying, cramming. And, okay, I'll tell you later what happened. All right. So then finally he decided to go to Mexico with me. We had to go to Santa Barbara. And I said,
Virginia, might add at this point in time that with regard to this famous psychic who pointed you in the right direction,
yes,
to go to the beaches of Mexico to find your master,
yeah.
You later sent all your friends
yes.
to see her, and the advice that she gave was?
I said, oh, go see this. She knows everything. All my friends go there. Nothing came out. Nothing. Nothing that she said, you'll get married, you'll get this fortune, you'll do this, do that. Nothing came out. They said, and then I knew later on when Baba came into our life that Baba was telling her, for us especially, because she never was right about anything. I lost a few friends, you know. I lost a few friends.
But you got the right direction from her,
right
and
direction.
to Mexico you went.
Right.
So now you and Jack are on the beaches of Mexico, way down there, below San Blas, for those of you who know where that is.
Where all the...
Living on the beach, palm trees.
I thought there was California. There were so many surfers.
No, living on the beach with palm trees, ocean,
and there was a mile-long wave, you know, Smatanchen Bay. Any of you are ex-surfers know about that. So then I saw this place. It was just paradise. So I rented an acre of land on the beach. Start building a grass shack. Beautiful grass shack with a fireplace, overlooking the ocean, a well. So then...
The life of a true renunciant.
Yeah. So then, one day Jack comes, meets somebody on the beach. And he happens to be Frank Hardy, who happens to be from the same area, from Redondo Beach. And he knew about Phyllis Frederick, and he knew about Baba. And he said, can I move in with you? I said, certainly. So he brought his tent. He was into SRF. He was just like an old friend. So then I thought, wow, something's coming up, you know. And sure enough, he brought Baba's picture. He and Jack had the same books, everything. Religious science, science of everything, except No, we had bought God Speaks, which we never looked at, or I didn't look at it. So Jack put his Baba's picture, you know, the one that looks like Jesus Christ. I'm the ancient one, I am this one, I'm Meher Baba now. And then he put a picture of Jesus, of Buddha, of Krishna, of all the masters. Yogananda and his masters, all around this big picture of Baba in his room, which is one room, one bedroom. I slept in the camper. Jack slept there. And it was just wonderful, this boy. He was just there with us, and it was just like, you know, we meditated, he and I, we did SRF and everything. And then he gave Jack some books of Baba, and Jack started reading it. He says, here. Oh yeah, then when we crossed the border, January the 4th, Jack called his father. He said, congratulations, son, you passed the bar. And I went, wow, you know. I said, that was the first thing. Then he met this boy on the beach about Baba. I mean, who told us about Baba.
So
and
things are starting to come
yeah,
true.
What
and
she
now
said.
you're down there, and all of a sudden, Baba's photo is now on the wall.
Yeah, on the wall.
But you don't believe in Baba at this point.
No, Jack said, oh, Baba says that you mustn't take drugs. I'm not going to take any more drugs and be responsible. Go back to California, practice law. I said, Jack, and Mom, you must read Baba's books. And I said, look, Jack, you've got your master. I've got Meherabad. I mean, I have Yogananda. I'm too busy. I don't want to listen. No, you read this book. Okay, so I look at God Speaks, and I saw God is unconscious, and this. How can God be unconscious? I said, Jack, I'm so happy you're with Meher Baba. I'm happy. You're happy. Let's just coexist, okay? So I'm busy building, as always. I must have been a builder of the pyramids in a past life. Because I start building a fence, you think I'm going to live there forever. Fixing this, fixing that, the fireplace, and making myself home. I thought I'd live here forever. It was just paradise under those palm trees and bananas growing out there, papayas, mangoes, avocados, oranges that big. I thought, this is it. This is where I'm going to live.
So you had a nice, comfortable pattern set in your life.
Yeah,
you had
and
your
I was
own
not
master.
going back to California.
You were not going to go back. What was it that actually made you think differently about Baba?
So then, it was, okay. Then Jack got sick. He got hepatitis. So I took him to the doctor, and he says, well, you should go to a hospital. And Jack wouldn't go to a hospital. Well, all right, then just be sure he gets B complex shot. Somewhere in the village, some nurse will give him a shot every day. And no fats or anything, just carbohydrates, fine. So we said, but he's not getting well, you know, time's passing by. And I said, finally, it was 5 days before my visa was going to expire. And in Mexico, when your visa expires, they take your camper, your radio, your clothes, everything. They want you to let it expire so they can take your things. It was very corrupt in those days. Still is probably, I don't know. So then I can't decide. I said, if I go back, I have to live, I have rentals, I have houses, I have all those possessions. I can't live in 4 square house. I've got to live out here in the open, you know. And then one morning, it was getting really close to that deadline.
So you were torn about having to go back where you didn't want to versus wanting to stay down in Mexico, and yet there's Jack who's very, very sick.
And the thing is, I want to go back, I want to be responsible, and I thought, he's got to see a doctor. So then I just freak out. I look at Jack, I say, he's going to die here. And I just in my mind, you know, that's it, I'm through. And then finally I said, any of you help me? I don't, you know, all the picture, I look, hey, help me.
Virginia right now is looking at the wall with all the photos of different saints, including Baba's picture.
And I'm going, help me, in my mind, all the Jack sound asleep, you know, just out of it. And suddenly I feel a presence in the room, and I go, something, yeah, And I look, and there's Baba, he's smiling at me. What are you worried about? Everything's fine, there's just one life, there's no death, Jack's not going to die, everything's just fine. Then I thought, I better look at Jesus to see what's happening. I look at Jesus. And Jesus says, yeah, we're all that's just one. And I look at Buddha, and he's going, yeah. Then I look at the same master, and he's going, yeah. They're all, Paramahan, my master, Paramahansa, yeah, you know. Yogananda. I mean, his three texts were G and Baba G and whoever.
All the masters
All
there
the
were.
masters. I'm going, my God, it's true. In the meanwhile, this love is coming out of Baba's picture. All of them are just saying, yeah, what are you worried about? There's just one life. Jack's not going to die. Everything's fine. And I'm going, my God, it's true. Jack is right. Jack, wake up. You're right. Then he looks, he opens his eyes. Jack, you look just like them. You have the same look. I look, same eternal look. And he says, why don't you look in the mirror? And I run to the mirror and I look, and I just see through all eternity, just like I'm eternal. I am spirit. You know, it's in me. I'm here. And I go, so really, the power. I can't just imagine. I could do anything. And I said, okay, I'm going. All right. So I never put flowers in Baba's picture because that's he's the one who's putting flowers. So I immediately get a leaf or anything, just put it in Baba's picture. And I just got up and I just had the power. I said, okay, throw this up, throw that down. In my possessions then, I had a big, beautiful house in Los Angeles. I was folding chairs, tin can, for camping. Those were my possessions there on the beach. And I just couldn't throw it away, so I said, there was like a raft. I said, well, I'll be back. So I put my shoe, my worldly possessions, which were, like I said, folding chairs and wooden tables and buckets and whatever. Okay, in 2 days I was out of the power, I'm going. And I put Jack in the camper in the back, and I'm going, Baba's with me, and I find somebody in the village, gives him a shot, let's go. I'll find somebody in every village in Mexico, 1,500 miles to the border. But I just felt power. 500 miles out of there, I see somebody hitchhiking in Culiacan. I stopped, and I said, hi. He says, hi. I said, where are you going? He said, well, I'd like to go to Texas, Houston, to visit my parents. I'm a peace worker from Salvador. I had a month off. I said, I'll give you a ride, but I'm going to California. He said, it's okay. We'll go to Tijuana, and I'll catch a bus, and I'll go to Houston. I said, come in. Jump in. Oh, but wait a minute. You better meet my son. So I opened the door in the back. Jack's there, and the picture of Baba's there. He opens the door. I open the door, and he goes, who's that? Looks at Baba's picture. And I said, well, that's our master. We believe he's the Christ. Oh, you meet Jack, hi, and all that. So he starts driving right away. I knew this would happen. Somebody would come and help me. He says, tell me more. What's his name? Meher Baba. Tell me what? I said, well, we believe he's the Christ. He says, I believe it. Yes, he says, yes. I said, what happened? He said, well, when I opened that door, it was just, shh, that love and like power and love. And I went, that's it. I've been looking for that. He just came back from Vietnam or something. No, that was somebody else. This is Frank Hardy.
So he drove back with you to Los
He
Angeles?
drove all the way to the
we
border.
We have to move ahead a little bit because we only have about 10 more minutes. So let's just jump ahead. Now you're in Los Angeles.
Okay.
You're a lover of Meher Baba.
Yes.
You're there. You're seeing your old friends again. What happened? Once you're
Then
back in town,
I met
being
my old
responsible.
friend, my sister. I'm always trying to convert some, when you're a new Baba. It's true, Belle, my sister. I met Meher Baba, he's God. I tell you, it's Christ. The best friend, Mike Hughes, his mother, my best. Oh, you should. And all going, backing up, Oh, you've been with Jack too long up there in the jungles. You've been with Jack's friends, they're all hippies, they take drugs and everything, and they're sort of, backing away from me. I said, no, it's really true. And slowly my friend just disappeared. And I thought, these are my lifelong friends. Not lifelong, but years. And meanwhile, Jack moves to Santa Monica, where? Hermosa Beach, and he meets Ivan, and they live together, and they open the Hermosa bookstore. And Jack says, come and meet Phyllis. Oh, she's wonderful. And before that, I wanted to meet Phyllis. I said, well, no, I haven't got time. I'm going to southern Utah. I haven't got time. I was afraid of this. Maybe they're right. My friends, maybe I just imagined this Meherabad, but Christ, how can that be? Okay, so by...
So your mind began to sort of reverse its position and
then
persuade you that it was
and
all...
I would not go to Baba meetings anymore, and I don't want to meet Phyllis. Then one day Jack says to me, we're going to Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach, what's that? That's South Carolina, that's Baba's home. Baba, oh, no. No, I'm not going to Myrtle Beach. Oh no, I'm not. I have no money, first of all. I'm not going. I want to go to the South. I don't know a thing about the South. I'm happy here. If I'm going anywhere, I'm going to Mexico. He says, you have no money? Okay, I have a few stocks. I'll sell my stock. He went and bought a ticket. And I guess I couldn't really resist, so I went fighting, like screaming, dragging me. So I went to Myrtle Beach.
So Jack sort of kidnapped you to Myrtle Beach.
Really, he did, against my will. And here's Kitty, and here's Jane. Oh, how are you? Come for dinner every night. There was nobody there. There were only, 2-3 people in Myrtle Beach in '68 in the fall. Dinner every night, movies of Baba, the arts invited us. Oh, people were so gracious, and I was just, God, I don't want to get out of this place. How am I going to get out of here? I don't want to get into this thing. So he gives me, God speaks again, and I look at it. Again, he's unconscious. But still, I went, oh God, no, throw it out. Oh, I'm going, I can't get out of this place. There's no transportation or anything. I'm trapped there, and all these nice people being just so nice, I just shut myself. And then Jack says, tomorrow, Jane's going to take us to Baba's house. Baba's house. Yes, and she's inviting us for tea. Oh, no. I said, I'm not going there. In the morning, what do? Get up early, and somehow I hitch a ride. I don't know who gave me a ride to Chapin's department store in downtown Chapel Hill. Is it? What is it? No.
Yes.
Myrtle Beach. That belongs to her family, Chapin's. Everything belongs to Elizabeth Patterson. Chapin, hardware, department store, everything. So I spent the whole day there buying junk. I spent anything that was, I bought this, I bought that. I was going to just leave it there, but just keep my mind busy.
And the tea time was, I think, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so then I'm looking at my clock. I said, oh God, thank God it's 4 o'clock. Now, shall I go back there, or shall I stay in a motel? If you go there, they'll try to get me there again. So I'm just about deciding where to go, and Phyllis Art shows up. She says, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be having tea at Jane's. I said, I'm not going to Jane. I'm not going back to Myrtle Beach. And she said, you just wait right here. I'm just going to get a bottle of milk and a few groceries. Stay right there, don't move. Okay. I'm just about to move. Here she comes. She says, get in that car. And I'm arguing with her the whole time on the way. She says, how do I know it's God? Nobody. How come my friends don't know? How come it's not in the paper? How come nobody knows? Only Jack knows. Only you people know. Anyway, how come my friends, who are very respectable people, don't know about her? She says, calm down, calm down. And she drops me right in front of the house of Jane. I'm stuck there. There you are. Okay. Okay, then Jane opens up. Come in, Virginia. We're waiting for you. They waited an hour for me. And I go, oh, God. Come in, here's a cup of tea. Oh, and here's a picture of Baba. And I saw Jack, and I went, and he says, I'm going to wait till so I'm trying, this frozen smile. She said, now, did you have your tea? Yes. Come in, and now we're going to go to Baba's house. And she takes my arms, and we walk, and I'm going, oh, God, I can't get out. I have to go. She opens the pallet enclosure, and I'm taking my shoes off. I'm going, oh, what can I do? The minute I take the shoes off, I'm telling you, suddenly, like that, just like a plug out of a bathtub, the water just went, and I went, oh, all the resistance was gone. I went, oh, something's happening here. So I walk in the room, barefoot, I'm going, and this is Baba's living room, and this is the kitchen, and this is Adi's room, and then this is Baba's room, and I looked at bed, it's empty, but boy, that was not empty. That room was full. And I go, and it's just vibrating again. That's the second time I already rejected Baba, right? He saved me in Mexico. I go to Myrtle Beach and I turn him down, and he's just determined to get me. And I'm going, oh my God, it's true, just shh, shh, love, power, love, anything, I just went, it's true, So then the two people there, Jane Freto, his mother was there, so she was in the room with me. She's kneeling down, so I kneel down, but I'm not bowing my head. And suddenly I feel his hand going down. I said, yes, you're God, yes, you're God. And I thought, I looked around to see what Jack, I thought it trying to save me. No, it's Baba pushing me down. I said, yes. And it was just, it's so powerful, I can't tell. I mean, I don't know what to say, you have to experience it. So then Jane comes in, she picks in, she goes, time to go. So we get up and I just, tears just pouring. Jane Freda, I think, had some experience because we were both just crying and weeping. So I walk out of there. It was already dusk by then because I had delayed them an hour. So I look out and it's just like a veil had been lifted out of my head. I understood God speak. Suddenly I knew what it was. I look at this tree and I could feel the sap going. It was consciousness, I'm going, I put my arm around the tree to listen to, it's alive, And I look at my feet, the earth is alive, everything is alive. And I'm going, God speaks, it's true. Then we passed the house of Phyllis Aunt, because she's the one I was quarreling with an hour earlier, right? And I just look at her, she opened the door, she looked at me, and she knew it, And we just embraced without saying a word, and we just walked out. By then it was getting dusk, but it was just absolutely magical. Everything, alive, everything. I didn't even exist, I wasn't there. So I went to the dining room, couldn't talk, I just like a must, I can see what Muhammad, when he's looking, he's seeing universes. Because I was looking in the earth and I could see the evolution of everything, And I just couldn't eat, so finally I just went to my room, and all night long I was just flying through the stars, through the planets, through universes, and shooting this, and just, I woke up in the morning. If I slept, I don't know, but my pillow was soaking wet. I'd been crying all night, but just joyful. It's real, it's true. Nobody's ever going to tell me it's not true now. He saved me twice already because I turned him down, So I walked out of there. I wasn't hungry, I don't see anybody, I just want to see. I crossed that little bridge and the universe is a different universe. I'm seeing it not through me, I wasn't there. That's what I think Baba means, the eternal moment. I was in the eternal moment. I'm like, wow, what a beautiful world. It's the inner world you're seeing, like the subtle world I'm seeing. I go and then I look, then I decide to go to the lake, to that little what's the name of that?
The boathouse.
Boathouse. I'm sitting outside. Most important thing in the world was to watch those little pollywogs. Just sat there and watch creation before my eyes. Just absolute world didn't exist except this. Maybe subtle world. I don't know. Semas or whatever.
Looking at Dish, right?
Anyway, then I heard somebody crying. Somebody came. Oh, my husband, he kicked me out of the house. He's so mean to me.
This is some woman who approached you, was upset?
She was going to the boathouse, and I guess I looked like somebody there. And she just had to say something. And I went, oh. And I put my hand on her. I said, what? She said, oh, it's okay. She said, oh. I said, Baba loves you. And she went, yeah, that's right, Baba loves me. No, he can't hurt me, she says. Okay, I'm fine now, she says. And then I went back to my, just looking at them. And just went all day. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. And at night, somebody had some other problem, and I just said something, and she said, oh, that's right, that's the answer, I'm not using my head, I'm just not there. So then I go to Baba's lagoon cabin, and there it was. His picture is right there, alive, like here I am. I said, wow. To think that I almost didn't come back, almost didn't come. Thanks to Jack, saved my life. Jack did. Just,
So
that went on, and just for days, finally I woke up enough. I said, when I go back to California, I'm not going to see my old friends. I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to live with Baba people. So that's when I went to the Baba meeting and I said, anybody here? I'll sleep on the floor. I'll pay the rent. Can I stay with anybody? I'm not going back to my house, to my family, my old. Patty Stout. Say, I have one room. No, I'll sleep. I'll stay on the floor. So I stayed with Patty Stout. Oh, she was just wonderful. The two of us, we just floated away. And from then on, it was just, I thought paradise. Of course, Baba had other things in mind, right? I mean, that's just the honeymoon to grab you, and then eventually
it's time to go to work, but that's the
hell. I went through hell. From then on, he just brings you in, and then he starts chopping, chop. So that's life with Baba. He brings you in, then he starts on your ego. I thought it would last forever. It's like Shireen thought, I'll be happy forever. We all think that's it, when the honeymoon. Then we have to go through life and work out our sanskaras, don't we?
So
I have Jack to thank for saving me twice.
So Baba dragged you all the way to him, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, kicking and screaming.
How fortunate you were. And how fortunate we are all today to hear these beautiful stories from Virginia and Adele, sharing Baba's love. And
We're
now,
still here, surviving somehow.
we have to close in just a moment, but are there any questions that anyone would like to ask? When you were there at the lagoon cabin, waiting for your turn to go in, and you were out there for at least a half an hour before you went in, you were thinking various thoughts, but what were you feeling at that time?
Well, it was really just, I had many thoughts all through the years about what it would be, what Baba was like, and so I was hoping that somehow I would, recognize what I should do. I was in my, but I heard of Baba when I was 25, but by that time I was 30, and I wondered, I had not chosen to work yet, so, but I'd been taking care of Nadine and Norina too as a nurse, and so I had many nursing functions, and I saw I could do that, and of course, and also Baba had told me to try to finish my thesis. I think he just did that because he knew I never would. So when I met him, I felt really very sheepish. I said, well, I hadn't finished it. And the way it's described was that Baba said then, did you finish your thesis? I said, no. He says, don't worry, I'm your thesis.
Incidentally,
and then he
it
also
was the
gave
thesis
us
for her master's degree, so Baba is saying, I'm your master's thesis.
But then Baba then told, he said, all you need to do is love me, and you want to read that.
Okay.
I think that would, it's better to read Baba's words. Phyllis wrote that. She said she thought when Baba said, she has eyes like Baba John, and Phyllis said, oh, I never got over that. She was green with envy. That's okay. Phyllis had all the other qualities that caused me to be green with envy.
Adele has asked me to read this one little quote here from Baba. It's during their first meeting there with Baba in the lagoon cabin. Now, Adele had been in there by herself, and then Phyllis had been in by herself, then Adele, then they were joined together in there. And
Baba said Philadel. He gave us that name.
And so now they're both in there in the lagoon cabin in 1952, just after having their separate private interviews, and Baba then tells them this. I love humor. I love to tease and work hard here at various places while talking to you now. And today, Phyllis and Adele have met me. And when you love me with pure, simple love, there should be no barrier. Love, pure, Simple. Then all doubts go away. Until then, mind gets tempted to doubt. Even if love is there, the mind goes on working, thinking this is right or wrong. But love doesn't bother. Do you love me honestly? They both nod yes. What more can you do for the beloved? I want love, nothing else. Love me and let God love us. That is what I want when you love Baba. God will love you, and God's loving means everything. So, Phyllis and Adele, both, I'm very, very happy. One who is the humblest of the humble is greatest of the great. But it has to be in all honesty, in all truth. Better not believe in God than be a hypocrite. So let us love, love, love. All else is illusion. So Adele, what more can you do if you really love me? Do you love me? Adele says yes. End of quote. Any other questions? Then I think it is time that we have to end this program to keep our schedule. So fellows, Adele and Virginia, thank you once again so much.